From empty to overflow, the widow and the oil. The sun was just beginning to rise over the dusty roads of ancient Israel when a desperate widow found herself standing outside the humble home of the prophet Elisha. Her steps were heavy, her heart heavier. Her husband, a faithful servant of the Lord, had died. His absence left not just an aching hole in her heart, but also a mountain of debt she could not pay. The creditors had already come with their threats. "If you cannot pay what you owe, we will take your 2 sons as slaves." And those words replayed in her mind like a drumbeat of despair. Her boys were her only hope, her only family left, and they were about to be taken from her. In her anguish, she ran to the one person she believed could help, the man of God, Elisha. Her voice trembled as she poured out her story. "My husband, your servant, is dead. You know he feared the Lord, but now the creditor is coming to take my 2 boys as his slaves." Elisha looked at her with the calmness of a man who had seen God turn hopelessness into miracles countless times. Then he asked a strange question. "What do you have in your house?" The widow's shoulders slumped. "Your servant has nothing there at all," she said, and then almost as an afterthought, "except a small jar of olive oil. A small jar, that was it. No gold, no silver, no savings hidden in the corner. Just a little oil, barely enough for a meal." But to Elisha, that small jar was not a sign of poverty. It was the seed of a miracle. "Go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars, and don't ask for just a few. Then go inside with your sons, shut the door behind you, and pour oil into all the jars. As each is filled, put it to one side." The widow must have wondered, how can a tiny jar fill many others? But she obeyed. Sometimes faith is simply doing what doesn't make sense because God said so. Her sons went out into the village, knocking on doors, explaining their mother's unusual request. Soon their small home was filled with jars. Big jars, small jars, clay jars, glass jars. Every empty container they could find. The widow closed the door behind her. The room was still. Her hands trembled as she lifted her little jar of oil. She tipped it gently over the first container, and the oil flowed. Not just a drop, not just a trickle. It poured. She filled the first jar. Still oil flowed. She filled the second jar. Still oil flowed. Her sons brought jar after jar after jar, and the oil never stopped. She laughed through tears, her eyes wide in awe. The sound of oil pouring became the sound of her deliverance. Finally, her son said, "Mother, there are no more jars." And at that exact moment, the oil stopped flowing. Breathless, she went to Elisha and told him what had happened. The prophet smiled and said, "Go, sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left." From the brink of losing everything, this widow walked away with more than she could have imagined. Her sons safe, her debt cleared, and her household secure. Lessons for us today. 1. God starts with what you have, not what you lack. You may feel like your jar is too small, your resources too few, your strength too weak. But God sees potential where you see insufficiency. 2. Obedience opens the door to overflow. If she had argued or hesitated, she might have missed her miracle. Faith often requires action before you see results. Your blessing flows according to your capacity to receive. The oil only stopped when there were no more jars. Are you preparing enough room in your life for God to bless you? 4. God's provision is never just enough. He didn't just pay her debt, He gave her enough to live on. That's the nature of our God, abundance, not survival. You may feel pressed by debts, not just financial but emotional, spiritual, or relational. You may feel like your jar is almost empty, but the God who multiplied oil for a widow is still the same today. Don't measure your future by what's in your hand. Measure it by who is in control of your life. He can take your not enough and make it overflow. God doesn't need a lot to do a lot. He only needs your faith.